Okay, so this circle and the square, if I have it right in the middle, that's kind of static, isn't it? Okay. And I think for that reason, a lot of people say, don't put anything in the middle of the frame. And the interesting thing is, like I said, a circle doesn't have a directional force. So it isn't emoting any kind of a directional information. Okay? And the fact that it's sitting right in the middle, it's not delivering any other information either. So it feels static. It feels stable. It feels solid and inert, basically. And I think that's why a lot of artists would say, don't put anything in the middle of the frame, because it's not delivering too much information. Unless what you want to say about that is, here's Henry V. Here is somebody who's static, stable, boom, put him right in the middle. Why wouldn't you put him in the middle? I mean, I find that you hear a lot of rules about composition and stuff that I really have to kind of question, because you have to look at the origin of those rules or ideas, and I'm always trying to figure out what's the purpose there. And honestly, with the idea of don't put anything in the middle of the frame, I would say, if you want to have something feel static, if you want to have something feel stable, immovable, and you're not going to deliver more information than that, well, then that might be the appropriate place to put that object. So, because it's telling you a bit of a story, right? So go ahead and put circles in all of these squares now and try to emote the feelings that you might get. If you want the circle to feel light, or if you want it to feel heavy. And the second thing about this little exercise is most all of you will get it all right, even if you know what, how, or why. Or if you don't know what, how, or why, you're still going to get it right, because most of you have been working with visuals just to have a sense of what would make something feel a certain way. And, maybe it's learned, maybe it's just intuitive. Okay? But we'll describe why. And I think it's important, once you start looking at the whys, things start to make a lot of sense. Okay, I'm going to just slide up here and kind of show you this, and we can follow along, and I'll show you, we'll talk about why these things look this way. Okay? So, light, it might not be a very large circle, but it is a substantial circle. It's not a small circle. Okay, and it's a little bit above center, okay? It's going to be centralized a little bit above center, okay? Because it's going to feel like it's a little bit higher in the frame. It's going to feel like it's floating. You're going to want to have it up a little bit higher. So that's one way of looking at that. Something heavy, that might allude to something that has mass. It has a certain amount of size. So it's going to be a certain amount of size, and it's going to be at the bottom. Okay? Now, I drew this even a little bit different. There's variations on this, but generally heavy might be something that displays a mass and also is at the bottom. It's sitting on the bottom of the frame, or close to sitting on the bottom of the frame. Static, like I have down here, it's just in the middle. It's not giving you any more information, okay? It's equidistant from the sides, and the circle isn't giving you any more information. Rising, you might crop it at the top, like it's moving outside the frame. Falling is going to be the same situation. It's going to be cropped, maybe going out of the frame in some way. Moving could be any side, but I'm going to put it over here. Okay? And I put it over there for two reasons. One, I could put it over on the left side, or I could put it on the right side. Okay? But here's why. As our eyes scan the square and we perceive the circle in that square, our eyes are scanning across like this. And we have a vast amount of space on the left here, pretty much equal space on top and bottom, so we're not challenged there. And then we have a very narrow space over on the right. Now, this narrow space, as our eyes scan this image, what happens is, as our eyes scan it, our eyes have to move, our scanning moves very rapidly through here, slows down around here, and then rapidly through there. So when we have things that are close or near tangent, our eyes have to scan quicker. They physically move faster in that area or scan. There's a tension. It creates visual tension. Is tension bad? No, it's not bad. It's just an occurrence. So managing tension is part of your design. Okay? How do you manage the tension within the image? That's important. Okay? And this is a case where we've created tension along this edge. And what happens is it has a tendency to make the circle feel like it's moving to the right. Okay? It's the tension that's actually pulling it over. And it appears to be pulling over to one side. Okay? So that's important. Big could be big circle filling the frame. Small might be a small one, but it's going to be down here. It's going to be lower. Okay? And near, again, near is going to be something in here. And far might be up here. Now, the reason that far and small tend to be, or far, it can be near and far or small. You can see far, the circle is small. So it has small mass. So things in the distance we know are smaller, right? Have the appearance, we sense that. The fact that it's high in the frame. Before perspective, there were depictions in Chinese scrolls and Persian miniatures and so on that made it clear that things in the distance were higher in the composition and things that were closer were lower in the composition. Now, is that a rule? Did someone say that? This happened in multiple cultures, okay? And I think, it's my opinion on this, I think there's a really good reason for it, why it was kind of a universal discovery. And that is that it's just a cone of vision. If you do this, okay? If you say this is your cone of vision out here, right? And you have the top of your cone of vision and your bottom of your cone of vision, and you walk towards anything, it bumps into the bottom first. You hit things along the bottom of your cone of vision first, okay? So things closer are closer to the bottom of the frame. As you see in your images, and when you take photos with your camera or whatever, you're going to see anything closer to you is at the bottom of the frame. A person who's right near you might be cropped at the bottom of the frame. Things farther away, as a person gets farther, you're going to see more of their feet and then more, in that frame. It's just natural cone of vision that works. So I think that's really the root of that. I don't think it was anything that was dictated or, learned. It's just our natural cone of vision. And I think that's why it could have been adopted in multiple cultures all over. It's just a simple default. It's just the way we see things. But when you label it, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, I get it. Because, everything that's closer to you like that. Okay? So near would be low and a little bit larger mass. So a little bit larger and down at the bottom of the frame. Small, in order to be small, not just the size, but it is also close to you. So being close to you needs to be lower to the frame, right? Things that are closer are a little bit lower in the frame. So that being the case, if it's small and lower in the frame, it feels smaller than a small object like far up here, okay? They look very different. This one could be far away, and this one is just appearance of small. So with a simple little circle in a square, you've got a lot of stuff you got a lot of opportunities. So just these simple little elements, if you keep that in mind, as you're composing images, what you're going to do is you're going to be able to lean into some of these things. Why does this building seem close? Well, because it's cropped out the bottom, or because it begins closer to my camera. Or, if I want to make something feel like it's rising, I might have it cropped out of the top, or leaning towards the top, or bouncing in towards the top, or so on. Now, if I go back to the moving one here, I have it on the right. I made it moving over to the right. I'll do another one where I have it over here on the left. Okay, so I've done the same thing, and this feels like it's moving in this direction. This feels like it's moving in this direction. Sometimes in the frame, if things are moving to the right, they might seem to move easier, okay? And things that move to the left might feel a little bit more tense. I know there's a lot of filmmakers that say, you know, that will rely on that, and they'll have all the shots. If the characters in the scenes are up against opposition, they have them moving right to left. If they're flowing or going the direction they should go or more comfortable, they're going to be going from left to right. Some filmmakers will lean into that and just make that a standard of the way that they view things and block things that way. There's a tendency to feel that, so if they want to really get into that, some lean into it like this is the golden rule. You know, you can make things work, you know, anyway. It's just a case with storytelling imagery, it's a case of creating context. So if you're consistent with your context, then you can move stories. Now, the next thing that I want to experiment with, we're going to still take a circle, okay? And what I want you to do is, now that we can look at, you know, creating an idea, little story idea, one of the other things that really helps your clarity is dominant and subordinate, okay? So when you want to tell a story with your imagery, you want to make sure that you have something that's dominant and it's going to be supported by something subordinate. You don't want to have your focus on all of your elements, right? If you have equal focus on everything, then nothing's important, okay? So you need to create some kind of hierarchy, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to draw a series of rectangles. You can use rectangles if you want. And I want you to use circles. Just circles. You can make circles large, small, as many as you want in the image, but I want you to make one of them dominant. Make it clear. So you can use series of circles and just do as many versions of that as you can think of.